Welcome to O-Talkin' with Dave. Here's Dave.
Hey, how we doing out there? I hope you're doing great. I am top shelf and loving it. I tell you, I got so much feedback from the last Talking with Dave session, talking about the way to fight complacency. Man, you guys jumped all over that. So I'm going to put another tidbit, a subordinate clause, if you will, a little annex here to talk about it a little bit more, because I want to get into, instead of the three things that we talked about to fight complacency. I'm not going to talk about that this time. You can look at the last session, but this one is just talking about complacency and how it is a silent threat. You guys have given me so many examples of how you were going along doing this, everything was fine, and then just all hell broke loose. And it's because you took your eye off the ball. I talked about driving down the road and you get somewhere and you realize, I don't even remember the last 15 miles because you were phoning it in. You had done this so much. It was routine, no attention to detail, all of that kind of stuff. That's complacency, not apathy. Apathy is not caring. Complacency is much more dangerous. Apathy is stronger. It's not the silent threat. It's a threat. Don't get me wrong. It's a threat. But that complacency, you find yourself there, or you don't find yourself there until it's too late. But think about it. Let's just go back to the car analogy where I was driving and forgot the last 10 or 15 minutes. If I'm not paying attention enough to know that, that's not safe. I could have had an accident. I'm not paying attention. Something could have happened. I could have hurt me. I was alone in the car at the time, or others. And it's dangerous. So it is a threat, a silent threat. So let's just talk about it. Complacency, let's really tie into that. Complacency is self-satisfaction that dulls awareness. Think about that. It dulls your awareness. Hey, I've done this so many times. It's also comfort, a comfort that blinds us to risk. Think about that. You're so comfortable doing it because we've done it so many times. Oh, yeah, I've done this so many times. How many times have you thrown rocks or picked up a rock and now there's a snake under it? Or you're doing different things. Maybe you're water skiing and you don't pay attention to some of the safety because you've done it so many times. Or I fly down this road. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. It's 25 miles an hour, but there's not much traffic on this road. But a kid walks out or a dog walks out. It's that dullness. It dulls your awareness. And the comfort of the situation blinds you to the risk. Also, it blinds you to any opportunity. Hey, there's an opportunity to do this. Here's a chance. I'm dulled to it. I'm blinded to it. And also, you may not realize that the decline, that's the silent part. Yeah, so that's it. Just that self-satisfaction that dulls awareness. The opposite of complacency would be vigilance. Vigilance and growth, meaning, hey, I'm focused. I want to get better. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to improve. Where complacency is coasting, vigilance, man, that is focused. That is pedaling. Complacency says this is good enough. Whereas vigilance and growth says, not yet. I can do better. I remember my son was recording one time in the studios and I thought he nailed it. And I can do better. I can beat that. That's not complacency. That is vigilance and growth. So let's talk about some stats. This should wake you up. Only 25% of employees reportedly are fully engaged at work. This is their words, fully engaged. So the rest of that time, what is it? It's autopilot. That's complacency. We've always done it. It's no problem. How many times have you heard somebody say, I could do this in my sleep? You are, basically. 25% are fully engaged. That means 75% are not. In safety environments, complacency contributes to 11% of tech-related accidents and 6% of maritime accidents. Complacency. One thing that we stress big time is complacency causes accidents. Definitely. We're used to doing this. I've always checked this. I checked it 1,000 times. I can't see the forest for the trees. No, when you're vigilant, you notice those things, and it's safer. 76% of employees say their team influences whether they stay or not. And complacent teams, that drives turnover. So if a team gets complacent, it's what's the use? What's the use? A lot of times you'll hear people complaining about their job, but it doesn't really sound that bad. That doesn't sound too bad. But the problem is it's a complacency problem, and that's just the same old thing. It's not exciting anymore. It's not challenging. The stat said 75% of people aren't fully engaged. Why not? There's the problem. And then up to 45% of daily actions are done on autopilot. Almost half of our lives are on autopilot. And this is not just at work. This is other stuff. Think about the drive home. Think about ordering at a restaurant. Think about cooking dinner. Think about, okay, at 4:30 we put 2.5 men on and it goes on till 9, and at 9 we go to bed. That's autopilot. Complacency. So let's think about it. When and where does it appear? It's silent until you notice it. So at work, you got routines. That's good enough. We'll get through that. That'll do. And that good enough culture, if it succeeds or is sustained, that's low accountability. And where there's low accountability, most things are good enough. That's a telltale sign. And at home, relationships, health sliding, into a lot of background noise going on. So, the relationships, you're not trying to grow. You're not trying to get better. Your health, you'll get to it. You'll get to it this weekend, maybe next weekend. And your health slides, and that affects everything. Same way with relationship health. So that's how it happens at home. And then think about it play. Think about it play. If you don't practice, you're not going to get better. You get overconfident. Overconfidence, that sounds like I'm contradicting the growth or the focus. Not at all. You're overconfident. You don't need to practice. You don't need to brush up on things. I know football season started, and I think for the first time in a long time, I haven't done any really checking it out or my due diligence around who's good, I know who's top ranked, and I know some of the games and all this, but usually by this time, man, I've dug in. I know. So is that complacency? I don't know if it is or not, but remember, it's silent. So it will show up at home, work, and play. Wherever it shows up, it will grow unless you stop it. It will impact the others. If you're not good at work, you're not going to be good at home. If you're not good at home, you're not going to be good at work. And all of them will affect the play. Cut it out. You'll start doing less of it because it's just not that big of a deal. It's not that important. It's good enough. So why does this happen? Why is it so common? And that's some of the things that you told me in your emails. I always told people, guard against this. We can't have this. And then in my own routines, I stopped doing some of the checks. I stopped doing some of those organization things that I used to do. I stopped preparing to that degree. One of them, somebody even said, and thanks for this, said, I stopped stretching. Oh, you know how I hate stretching. That's part of preparation. So you're going to get hurt. You're complacent about it. You're overconfident. Yeah. So why do we become that way? I think a lot of it is just comfort in our routine. Our brains are saving energy by clicking on autopilot. When I've said it, I don't use the cruise control. It keeps me engaged. Yeah, my foot hurts and my hip hurts sometimes, but it keeps me engaged because I like that. I like to drive, not be driven. But I think comfort and routine instigates complacency, just because, hey, it's easy to throw that thing on autopilot. I talked about overconfidence earlier. I think that is definitely a big one. I've done this 1,000 times. I don't need to think. Muscle memory will take over. They know what I mean. I don't have to explain this over and over. They know what I'm thinking. Really. Okay. Ouch. Also, a lack of accountability. We talked about that. When something is good enough and you have a culture of getting by, doing the least you can do, then there's low accountability. Nobody's pushing you. There's no consequences. There's no need to be vigilant or get better at something because, that's good enough. That's why you've got to ask people to push you. You can push yourself to some degree. However, if you are in an environment of complacency, eventually, you're going to go on autopilot. It's hard to continually push yourself. I need somebody every now and then to bet me I can't. Okay, you got me now. Yeah. And then I think we all have our own biases. Something's familiar, and so we tend to think this way about it, assuming tomorrow's going to be the same as yesterday. This group, so-and-so's here, this is what it's going to be like. Oh, I'm glad they're there. They'll do all the heavy lifting, and I can just get by. Assumptions, that type of thing. So that's why we become complacent. We're not bad people. No. And we don't just stampede into complacency. It happens over time. So let's think about the things that we get complacent about, homework and play. Self-improvement. Oh, it's so easy to procrastinate with this. You know what? I really should do this. I know I do, but you start comparing yourself to other people. And I'm not doing this, and he looks happy, and my goodness, he's a lot bigger and slower than I am. But it's easy to put those things off. I don't know, I feel pretty good today. If you didn't feel good, you probably wouldn't do it either because you don't feel good today. So there's always a reason. But complacency really gets into self-improvement, whether it's health, learning, challenging your mind, all these things. Also another one, and this shows up real world, is in safety or procedural things, taking shortcuts. Yeah, I'm in a lot of manufacturing facilities, and I've got glasses on. These aren't safety glasses. Stuff can happen from the side. Yeah, laziness and complacency. I'll just wear these. Nothing, that. I'll prevent X% of the projectiles coming into my cornea. Come on. It's shortcuts. There are procedures in place for how to do things, how to do them correctly, how to do them safely, how to do them effectively. And when complacency comes in, you take shortcuts. That autopilot doesn't pay attention to those things. So it slips into those. I tell you, a bad thing that complacency sneaks up on you is in relationships. They know me. They know how it is. You'll explain yourself less. You'll ask fewer questions. It's less engagement, less back and forth. But it's okay. We've known each other for 30 years. We've known each other since we were kids. We've been married for 4 decades. So that complacency around relationships, silent threat. So then we talked a little bit about self-improvement, but also just general health and wellness. Yeah, just what you're eating, what you're doing, what you're taking as far as supplements or whatever you do. And then finally, one that hits and is going to get you is complacency around finances or planning. If you don't plan, if you don't plan, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. Oh, so hokey, so true. But you have to plan. I do this constantly. I don't do it necessarily well. I've just redrawn from 60 to 67. And, from 67 to 70. Woo! 70. Can you believe I'm talking about 70? But you have to look at that and say, okay, am I on track? You can't just go to work and go home and hope unless you really have it dialed in. And then that's great. I talked to somebody this past week who they've started doing something years ago. They've stuck to it. They don't even have to think about it. They just work, make the money, and X% goes, takes care of it. They check once a month. Fantastic. I have to recalibrate from time to time and check it out just to make sure I'm on track. Complacency makes you not check it. I just assume it's okay. You know what? It's for years it's been doing that. The world is changing. So don't get complacent with your finances or future planning. So why all the hubbub, Dave? What complacency? Yeah, you go on autopilot. How bad can it hurt? All right, let's talk about it. You talk about safety, risks, and having accidents. What is that? Driving, somebody else not paying attention. It's not just your complacency, it's everybody else's. I'm a good driver, but I can't control the other guys. So accidents happen. Safety, whether you're out on the road, you're around the house, all sorts of things. Pay attention to what's going on. Don't go to autopilot. Your career, there's constantly people challenging you. And if it's not by challenging, trying to get your position, trying to get some of your credit. And I don't mean that in a petty way. AI. Hey, don't get complacent. AI is coming, people. It's already here. So don't get complacent with what you've always done, because we've got a new world around. So your career, whether it's growing or stagnation, settling in, hey, it's something to watch out, because the consequences of complacency can kick you out. If you're not keeping up and trying to be vigilant and grow in your career, other things are catching up and can lap you really quickly. We've talked about the relationship side. There are other people out there. I know there have been people in my life who just assume their role. Goodness, I knew people who used to be the funny guy. Somebody else, they disappeared for a little while, and next thing, another guy came in, and wow, he's funny too, and he's fun, and he's not as negative. That former funny guy lost his place in the pecking order. Nothing wrong with him, but he just assumed. So that relationship broke down because of complacency. And they didn't watch their P's and Q's around certain things. They were more negative. They're much more negative than they were at one time, and they were less fun to be around. So relationships faltered a little bit because they got complacent. And then if you're not growing, you're backing up. If you're not moving forward, you might as well be backing up. Whether it's innovation or performance, we talk about getting better. Always be improving, or at least focusing to where you're not sliding. Because, again, if you're standing still, you might as well be backing up. I remember several people have made that analogy. So watch that decline in innovation or performance due to complacency. And then have a standard. Have an expectation. Have a high expectation. Because once those expectations or standards start eroding, it doesn't happen overnight, but you don't even notice it if you're complacent. And before long, man, you can't even keep up because you've got habits or trends that are hurting you. The old standard is not the new standard. And if you're going by the old standard, complacency is going to get you. So how do we recognize it? Sometimes we're just too close to it. We are, and you don't see it until it's too late. So let's talk about some ways we can recognize complacency in ourselves and in others. If you're doing something important and you find your mind is wandering, you're focusing on this and you need to get these numbers, you need to get that, but you can't concentrate. A lot of times that's an indicator of complacency. This is difficult or intricate or something you need to focus on. Even though you've done it 1,000 times, why is it so difficult today? And then if I got something on my mind, is something happening here? Well, it could be complacency has creeped in. And then being fine with everything being fine. Yeah, something happens, that's all right. When you're not progressing, things aren't happening. You're not number one now, you're number two. When that would drove you crazy 6 months ago, now you're just not in last place. At least I'm not last. Whoa, that's not who we are. That's a sign complacency is coming in. You can also tell when you're more and more defensive. Somebody may be pointing something out, and usually that's somebody that cares. Over and over, I've been in situations where if they didn't care, they wouldn't say anything, but they do care. And so they bring it up. If someone's bringing up an opportunity for improvement or a standard or a need that you may not be meeting when you always have, if you're getting defensive, that's a bit of complacency rather than listening and maybe admitting it or back and forth. You can make a case without being defensive, but if you're defensive out of the gate, all right, you may have a touch of the complacency. And then just depending on the routine, because the routine is comfortable, without any reflection on the results or how can this be better. This has taken 30 minutes to do and it used to be 15, but it's part of my routine. That's complacency. And also if you just don't have a sense of urgency, especially things that matter most, but if there's just no sense of urgency, I'll get to it. Eventually. Yeah. That's a sign that complacency is creeping in. So there are a lot of benefits to ridding yourself, to getting rid of complacency. You're going to be sharper. You're going to be aware. You're going to be focused. You're going to notice things you didn't notice before, maybe ever, but definitely not lately. You're going to have more energy because the results are going to be better. You're focused. I got more energy. I feel a purpose here. That's going to happen. You're going to be more creative because you're dialed in now. I'm aware of this. I got more energy. I see the goal in front of us. You know what? We should try this. Or how about we bring this into the game? We're doing some things in Vegas, a company I'm working for. We're doing some things that hit on the creative side, and I love it. I love marketing. I love all this stuff. But creative ways to create a gap between a service you provide and other people. Maybe a different take on it. Maybe changing people's perspective. That creativity and innovation, I love it. And if you are enthralled in that, there's no room for complacency there. You're too busy. And it's great. Also, we talked about hurting relationships with complacency. The opposite is true when you get rid of them. You are not only building stronger relationships because there's more teamwork, there's more innovation, there's more creativity. You have a purpose that you're working for, and you're working toward the same goal, so you're together. You win, lose, or draw, you're doing it together, and that builds a bond. Even in conflict, that builds that bond. And so that builds the relationship and engagement. You talk more often. You talk with a more positive tone. You're excited. There's less negativity. You're not going to procrastinate because they're counting on you and you're counting on them. See how that happens when complacency's gone? And then what happens there also, you're going to have healthier habits and a healthier lifestyle because you got people, you have accountability, you have standards. There's an expectation, whether it's set or not. And you're going to raise your level a bit when you get rid of complacency. Okay, so how do we do it? Great stuff, Dave. I'm frothy. I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me, how do we do this? 5 ways to stay focused with urgency and not complacency. You've heard all these before. Break the routine with deliberate novelty. Meaning, we're not, okay, usually here's what we do. Today we're going to do something a little different and break it up. We'll break it up. We're going to brainstorm for 30 minutes about this topic. Or, you know what? Let's divide up. There's 8 of us. You 2 take this. You 2 separate 4 different groups. We're going to come back in 2 hours, and then everybody's going to talk about what we're going to do, and then we're going to pick the best 2 deals and just beat the crap out of it until we're all united. Break it up. It's a routine. Routines lead to complacency because routines lead to autopilot. Break it up. Do something new. Do something old in a new way. Okay? Number 2, build accountability into it. Everything should have some type of an accountability built into it, whether you have a mentoring program, peer pressure, accountability partners, teams, assigning action items and a time to come back and report. Whether it's a call talking about, okay, you guys are supposed to do this, how did it go, and what's the next action item? Just something like that. The same thing is true at home. You can do all of this at home. Break up the routine. Somebody's counting on something else for something. I'm going to do this tomorrow at noon. I'm going to do this. Before I can, I'm going to cut the grass. So I need you guys before noon. Just go through and make sure all the rocks I used to have to do this. The rocks are picked up or sticks, anything in the way. That way, it makes it easier on me. I don't have to slow down and do all this stuff. I can finish the grass quicker, and then we can do something in the early afternoon. Build something into that. Set smaller challenges, micro challenges, just small things so that everybody can win. And then increase their complexity, increase their priority, and increase the consequences as it goes, but start small. And then the feedback model is so important. Seek it, and give it. Reward progress. No coasting here. Somebody's coasting, point it out. Help them. Pedal for them. Do something, but don't not say something. Don't miss a chance to coach. And sometimes the coach needs to be coached, but seek feedback. Give feedback. Because remember, you're a team now. That takes care of that. That gives urgency. And then the last thing I'll share is reframe comfort as a warning sign. Some people, that's what they want. They want to find a comfort zone. They want to be on autopilot. That is the reward. That's complacency. Don't be in a situation where comfort is sought or seen as a reward. So complacency, it's the comfort that cost us. It's not laziness. It's not failure. It's just human nature tricking you into thinking everything's okay. This is good enough. This is fine. But fine is fragile. Fine is forgettable. And fine is really the first step toward failure. So the opposite of complacency is vigilance, urgency, choosing to stay awake, choosing to stay alive and engaged in whatever's going on. So when you, just to look at it, complacency feels safe, but it is the slowest form of surrender. That's what it is. Complacency is surrender. Choose vigilance, choose urgency, choose growth, because your best future you'll never get there on autopilot. Okay? 5 actions. Ask daily. Where am I on autopilot? Where am I phoning it in? Try something new. Shake it up, even if it's something small. Find accountability. Don't just drift alone out there. Call somebody. Talk to somebody. Ask somebody to go with you. Celebrate growth, not comfort. And then finally, you got to reconnect to a purpose. Why does this matter? Why am I doing this? If I'm taking my time to do this, I need to be engaged. I don't need to be on autopilot. And I don't need to be complacent, because that's the slowest form of surrender. All right. I hope I hit the mark on that. I appreciate the feedback. Keep it coming. Thanks for hanging out. Hit me up at david@otalks.com, dave@otalks.com. I appreciate it so much. Thanks for all of the support. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging on. But most of all, thanks for O-Talking with Dave. Giddy up.